What's up, guys, and welcome to the follow-up to the interview that I did with Geekdom a couple of weeks ago. I appreciate this is about 2 weeks late. I should have really done this as soon as I could, but I was away for Valentine's visiting my girlfriend, and then this week, I guess, I don't know what to say, personal issues, just generally just not feeling very well. Had sort of no motivation to make videos, and so that's why I'm late. But we're back, I'm feeling better now, so let's jump right in. Back in the interview, we asked you to leave some questions down in the comment section below, and I'm now going to pick out a few and answer them. The first question comes in from The Darkness Flame. He asks, do you think that the animation and the art in this new saga will surpass the future Trunks saga? This is a hard question to answer, actually. I've been asked this many times before, and frankly, the answer is I don't know. It's very, very hard to say. I guess I kind of have two thoughts on this. Firstly, the show is at least in a slightly better place than the last tournament, so I think it will definitely be better than that, and the fact that we've seen 2 episodes now and the first fight was already significantly better makes me think that, you know, maybe it'll be okay. I think we do have better animators on the whole. Directors can do their own thing now, which is pretty cool. On the other side of things, just the layout in general of the tournament, the fact you may well have fight after fight after fight. Again, it's so early on in the arc that it's hard to say. We don't actually know the layout of the tournament right now, but if it is fight after fight after fight, then I think we may run into issues we did see in episode 79, I think, whatever the Tate episode was, that it relied on a huge number of staff just to get it done, which is a little bit worrying, but it did look decent, so I guess we'll see. So yeah, I guess the short of it is that it has the potential to be, but just the fact that a tournament requires so much of animators, even on a good schedule, does make it a little bit worrying, but I guess we'll see. The next question comes in from Marco Keenut? I'm just going to call you Marco. Do you think Super will ever reach the quality of animation that is top-notch like this iconic series really deserves? I kind of feel like I want to ask you more, like, what do you mean by the animation the series deserves? Because I think there are different definitions of great animation. Do you mean great animation in terms of, like, really special cases like Mob Psycho 100 and One Punch Man where you had like the best of the best all lumped into this one short show and it was basically spectacular in every way? Or do you mean as good as a long-running show can realistically be, like your best episodes of Naruto or like One Piece, for example? I think either way, the answer is no. Realistically, obviously, the latter is what's possible. There's no way you can ever have animation as good as Mob Psycho 100 and One Punch Man sustained over the course of hundreds of episodes. It just doesn't work that way. Even Hunter x Hunter 2011. You know, people love to bring that up, but you know, it was still a series that had a set ending. It could be adequately planned, and it doesn't have as many highs as I think people think it does. But that's a totally different subject. So anyway, I do think the answer is no, because pre-production is so important. That's where your buffer comes from in terms of episodes. That's your schedule. It's so hard to bounce back from that. It really, really is. You know, when the show just runs continuously, you know, you kind of have to just roll with the punches. And if you didn't have enough of a buffer, you know, it's very, very difficult. Obviously, you do have weeks off here and there, and you can sacrifice episodes here and there, but these are little patchwork fixes. These aren't major changes, game changers to Super. So frankly, yeah, no, I don't think it's ever going to be to the level that I think people want. You will, of course, have episodes here and there. The big episodes will live up to people's expectations, but the overall average quality, I don't think is ever going to be satisfactory to the majority of people, no. Maximum Oversaiyan asks, what do you think is the best cut of animation in the history of Dragon Ball, not counting the movies? So I've spoken about this before, and I do genuinely believe it is Shida's cut in episode 57. It is really, really strong. And, you know, maybe it's not as long as the one in 66, but I think technically it is better. Don't get me wrong, like Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z did have some really, really great moments in it. But yeah, I mean, they just don't come close to modern day Shida. He's just, you know, spectacular. That's pretty much all I have to say on that. I mean, you said not counting movies. I'm assuming you're not counting specials either. If you were counting specials, then, you know, maybe I'd think about Ryo Onashi's cut in episode of Bardock, but even then, I don't think it lives up to what Shida did. So moving on, we have a question from Drake the Drac. I don't know these names. How many years does anime have left to continue down this road? The wages are deplorable at best. The schedules are ridiculous. The Blu-rays are expensive. How is the industry even still afloat now, basically? Yeah, I mean, so the anime model is kind of broken, and that is true. You know, anime airing at like 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. for, you know, shows that even aimed at kids is just baffling. You know, people don't watch these shows live in a lot of cases. They rely on recording things, and it doesn't make much sense to me. It is fundamentally broken. A lot of people feel this way, but it's just about working. Yeah, I mean, you are right. The wages are bad. Animators do get paid by the drawing, and the fees are very, very low. It's not great, but frankly, you know, it is just about sustaining itself just fine thanks to international sales and the fact that the Blu-rays are expensive. It is a very niche audience, but it's a very passionate audience who are very willing to spend the money. So there's not really too much to worry about there. You know, as I said, licensing, home sales, you know, they do just fine, frankly. You know, it works out okay, and in cases where it doesn't, well, that's a shame, but it's not killing the industry in any sort of major way. Okay, No Beast Like Me asks, should Dragon Ball Super episodes be 2 to 3 weeks apart to help with the development? So this is a very, very popular question or desire from a lot of people. You know, just, you know, make it every 2 weeks and it'll be fine. Does anyone remember Sailor Moon Crystal, the first 2 seasons of that? That came out every 2 weeks and it still looked like absolute garbage. You know, sometimes your fundamental core of a show is just broken. I feel like if Super went to being every 2 weeks, it wouldn't make a massive difference. You still wouldn't have anywhere near the number of animators that you really need in terms of talent. Like, how many Higashides do we really need to actually make the show work? And the answer is quite a few. At the moment, we don't really have enough to sort of sustain that. You know, if Higashide disappears, then, you know, Super kind of loses its major key player, and we don't have someone to replace that realistically. So, you know, while I do talk a lot about time, you know, that's only one aspect in the grand scheme of things. There are a lot of different things wrong with Super, and yeah, the number of talented staff is definitely a major part of that. I think a follow-up question to that is, well, why can't they just get more talented staff? And well, that kind of makes me think back to the previous question about the animation industry. You know, there are too many shows and just not enough good animators to fill the slots. That's just an industry-wide issue as a whole. Next is a question from Made in Heaven 88. He asks, what's your opinion on the anime Shirobako? Is that really how the Japanese animation industry is? The answer is yes, pretty much. I mean, that show is obviously exaggerated in places for comedy purposes. I mean, throwing the director in a cage to make him finish a storyboard. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit over the top, but for the most part, you know, the issues that they run into, you know, trying to get staff to work on an episode, trying to get the supervisor to finish his corrections in time, trying to get a director to finish his storyboard, and like the production staff running around trying to control everything. You know, that is pretty much one-to-one with how things are. It's a very good representation of the industry, and I do recommend people go and watch that if they do want a good understanding of how things are, while also being entertained, because there is a good story there. Also, you know, if you do want to learn more, I do recommend 2 different making-ofs. The first, in fact, they're both from Studio Trigger. The first is for Little Witch Academia, and the second is for Kill la Kill. You kind of get all of the issues and craziness that you see in Shirobako, but it's obviously real and grounded, and it's interesting. And of course, you do get to see some of the absolute best animators at work, Sushio and Yo-Yo Shinaria, all there, and it's good to see them work. And it's interesting, especially in Little Witch, because they had amateurs working under them, and they were being taught as part of this big program in Japan at the time. It's a very interesting documentary. So if you can hunt that down, I definitely recommend you watch it. Okay, This is from Hamza Adries, and he says, why don't the Dragon Ball Super fight scenes have the same tension or fast action that the original Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z had? The fights from 20 years ago were more engaging. Sure, so I think, yeah, that's something that a lot of people have noticed, and I do agree with it to an extent. I think there are two parts to this, and I think the one is most obvious. You know, they don't have Toriyama's panels to look at as reference. When shows adapt a manga, they very often just cut out stuff from the comic and paste it into the storyboard because there's no real reason to come up with something themselves, because these mangaka are absolute masters of their craft. Toriyama is incredibly good at putting together fight scenes and coming up with very interesting angles. You know, he is a master of constructing action. A lot of people maybe don't give him enough credit for that, but it is a huge factor there. And you know, while a lot of the storyboard artists on Super are very, very good, they really, really are, and I do want to do a video on that at some point. You know, it's not incorrect that they maybe don't quite live up to what fans want. So yeah, I guess there are also two reasons to that as well. The first being that, well, Super's schedule isn't great, and you know, these directors, storyboard artists, they know that, and so I think in some sense they do have to compromise a little bit there. They can't just fill a storyboard packed with all of this insane action when they know full well that the production just can't cope with it. So I think possibly they scale back things a little bit there. I mean, that's a guess on my part, but that just does seem to be the case in a couple of episodes especially. The next is that, again, to do with the schedule, in a lot of cases, the storyboard artists do not get to direct their own storyboards, which is a huge factor because nobody knows the storyboard better than the director, and the director is responsible for telling the animators how to convey everything in this storyboard, you know, and converting it into actual motion. This is one of the major reasons why some of the stuff in the Battle of Gods arc and even the Universe 6 arc wasn't particularly good. Directors could not direct their own storyboards, and it wasn't until the Future Trunks arc that became viable. You'll notice that all of the best episodes are directed and storyboarded by the same person, 66, 57. You know, it's all by one person leading the pack, and there's that cohesion there that actually makes for some great energy, great action. Okay, so Moogie Mikey asks, AJ, do you know what the outsourcing process was like in the 80s and 90s for the first 3 series? Is it pretty much the same as today? The info I found on it in the past was so little and very vague. So in Super, everything is basically done in-house by animators at Toei. If they're outsourcing, it's generally for a little episode here and there, Shirio one pack, and maybe they're helping with just like the first half of an episode, or maybe they're just doing like second key animation. It's kind of like a support role. Whereas back on Dragon Ball Z, and GT to an extent as well, actually the series was pretty much entirely not done at Toei. Like it was put together by a series of different teams, different studios on rotation. You had like Seigasha, you had Last House, Shindo Productions, and many more. It was very rare that episodes were actually done in-house at Toei. It was, I don't want to say it's like how Madhouse operates now, but it was, I guess, a little bit similar in the sense that, you know, while everything Dragon Ball was under the header Toei, the actual staff producing the show weren't really Toei. So yeah, that's very different now to where like the main core staff on Super are all Toei animators, and then any outsourcing is kind of shipped off to like Korea or China or even smaller studios in Japan. It's a lot more of a support role rather than being sort of the functioning rotation construction of the series back then. Okay, this one is from Noah Bayer. He says, who would you say is your favorite supervisor, your least favorite supervisor, and the supervisor you're most indifferent to on Super? Well, favorite one I think is obvious, Naoki Tate. Look, I know that his episodes are not generally as explosive is maybe the word, as like Yuichi Kurosawa's stuff. But him as an animator, him as a supervisor, I just find his character art is really interesting to me. I really like how soft and unique the characters look. And in terms of his animation, again, at least on Super, it hasn't been like Shida level craziness, but it's interesting to me. I love the way he conveys motion. I just really enjoy everything about the way he animates. His effects are really nice. I love his smears. I love the way characters move. It's all very unique and something that really appeals to me. In terms of least favorite, I think it has to be Yukihiro Kitano. He's just kind of showed me nothing enjoyable at all. Like his best is incredibly mediocre and his worst is just horrendous. I think that's also elevated by the fact that he keeps getting given, I don't want to say important episodes, but they always come directly after important episodes. So like the quality whiplash hurts so much that it kind of makes me dislike him even more. I think some of the big examples are like episode 61 was Shimanuki, and it had like that incredible Trunks transformation scene at the end, and then it was Kitano for 62 who did like the fight bit, and it was just terrible. It just really, really disappointed me and disappointed a lot of people. And then again in episode 66, you had Kurosawa and Shimanuki again doing incredible stuff with Vegito Blue and Zamas or Merge Zamas, and of course Trunks at the end. Like this big finale episode, and then you're looking forward to the follow-up in 67, and it's just awful. It's just Kitano melting faces everywhere. It's not good. So the supervisor that I'm most indifferent to, I would say, is probably Osamu Ishikawa. He very rarely does anything bad, but then he very rarely does anything good either. He's just kind of like that middle-of-the-road supervisor, very inoffensive. I don't look forward to his episodes, but I don't dread them either. It's just kind of like, yeah, this is fine. If this was like the average episode, I'd be pretty happy with that. And so, yeah, I guess he's probably the one I'm most indifferent to. Okay, and last question comes in from SuperRay29. He says, to be honest, are you not going to watch Dragon Ball Super if the animation is not good to you? I'm a fan, so if it's off, I'ma still watch. That's hard. The thing is, as good as a story may be, anime, cartoons are animation. How you take that story and turn it into something visual is to do with the animation, and if the animation is bad, then it's not a good show. Like it isn't. Like I can deal with mediocre animation, but if the animation is abhorrent, then yeah, I can't see myself sticking with it. I think a good example would be like episode 33 of Dragon Ball Super, the opening fight of the Universe 6 tournament, Goku versus Botamo. The manga, Toyotaro's manga, felt more dynamic and more animated than that fight. So to me, if Dragon Ball Super is going to have bad animation at that level, then I would not watch the show anymore, and I would seriously just read it. Because, even if it's, as much as I do value manga, and I think there are some incredible things in there, that's not where my main interests lie, but, if the animation is so unpalatable that I can't deal with it, then I would definitely, push aside the anime and just read. Yeah. So that's it. That's a wrap. Nice little quick video to slowly ease myself back into video making. I think I'm going to do the roundup video as a 2-in-1 this week, since it's obviously Saturday today. There probably wouldn't be much point in me putting out a video today, only to then have to do another one tomorrow. So I'll just combine the two, and hopefully we'll have some fun with that. Again, I'm sorry for being late. I know we had like a good roll going, basically, over the past couple of weeks. So yeah, kind of sad to have let that slip a bit, but hey ho, it is what it is. And I appreciate this video is really long, so if you're listening to this now, then you are the number one fan. But yeah, thanks for listening, and I will see you next time.